Hello and welcome, underachievers. In today's video, we're gonna be looking at smithing and everything that is included in the forging um, section of the game. We're gonna be talking about a couple of things. So we're gonna start with the skills. We're gonna then talk about the ores that we use, then tools, buildings, followed by smelting and forging. How to make charcoal, that's indeed part of the killing, but we'll talk about it because it's important for smithing. Raw iron processing, your ingots, bars, lumps ratios. Then we're going to move on to the coating of toughened versus hardened, either iron or steel, and we explain when you use them. Steel making, and then we're going to make some tools, some nails, and some case-hardened sheets. For future videos, I'm going to be doing weaponsmithing and armor smithing in the skill tree line, so we'll leave the weapons and armors for then. So skills. Forging is the second skill in the killing tree line. Uh, Basically, as soon as you unlock that 60 killing, you can go to 100 forging, right? You want to be sure that it's as high as possible. There's a couple of different things you can do along the way, but most of the time it will be processing ore. You can forge the metal tools at 0, but the quality is going to be bad. You can also check the recipes to what stuff you can build and whatnot in the beginning. And as you progress, so most of the tools actually unlock at 30, but it's also when you're able to make ingots out of stuff. At 60, you do get to start coating stuff and to make steel and to make gold ingots and silver ingots. I'm going to get into that briefly. Then at 90, you can start processing Vostascos, and that's the most important thing at 90, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. There is 4 types of ores in Life is Feudal. Um, the silver one and the gold one are pretty much to wash and to um, be processed by precious prospecting. We already have a video on that, so if you want to check it out, do go forward. Uh, the copper one, we're not going to be digging deep into this one because you're rarely going to be using this one. Like 1% of your smithing is going to be copper, but basically you just need copper for a couple of occasions. So you need 100 quality copper or close to actually process to make your cooking pot, and that's a must. You can make like 10 cooking pots and you're done for forever because obviously you can repair them. The other one you need for alchemical ware, and that you will also make once, and then you will need a lot for Vostascos, but then that's later on as well, and we'll get to what Vostascos is in a second as well. Uh, so right now, the one we're going to be using the most is definitely the iron ore. So this is the bread and butter of the smiths, and basically this can also be mined, so it's like the other ones. The temperature for this one is 1500 if I'm not mistaken, but they'll check me on that if I'm not wrong. Oh yeah, 1500, there we go, or higher. I always put it to higher, but we'll get to on why in a bit. uh, so basically, yeah, this is mineable. It's if you've played Life is Feudal at any point, you definitely found it, and you have used it. So basically, these are usually cannot be dropped in bags, and it's usually dropped as if it was stone or something like that. And it can be processed in a couple of buildings that we're going to talk about, and the tools as well. So basically, as soon as you get to your, you just as a first rule of thumb, the first tip, always make into ingots. There is a couple of reasons there, but ingots will always be your go-to. So like everything that is raw iron, you grab it, put it into your furnaces or into bloomeries, and you make it into ingots. So now that we know the ores that we're going to be working with, which is pretty much iron, let's look at the tools. So to actually process uh, any kind of iron, steel, or copper, you basically need you start with a primitive crucible and stick. It's easy to make, a couple of rocks, one branch, um, but this one will give you a very low quality of iron. You should be using the one you should be using as soon as you can. So as soon as you make this one, you basically can make the second one, which is the crucible in tongues. And this one is definitely like always going to be with you when you're smithing. Um, we'll talk about steel caps and all that stuff in a bit, but basically like this one you can, as soon as you put the ingots back into the bloomery or to your furnace, You can basically draw it from there rather than having to go in the forging anvil to make it, or rather than this one is made straight from the heated common ingots inside the furnace or the bloomery. This is really important. This is really important because we're going to be talking about forging versus smelting, and this avoids the iron caps. We'll talk about those in a second. The other tool you're going to be needing is the blacksmith hammer. So this is what allows you to forge. So the the, the crucible and tongues allows you to smelt, and the blacksmith hammer allows you to forge. Um, the forging process occurs in the forging anvil, or it occurs in the blacksmith shop, which I'm going to show you in a second. But basically, the blacksmith hammer is like the second thing you make after you make your first crucible and tongues. This is really what you're going to be making. So you want to be sure to have a good quality branch and one common ingot. So your first higher quality common ingots should definitely be coming to your crucible and tongues and your blacksmith hammer, because it will increase the quality of the subsequent stuff you do with it, right? So so now that we know about the tools, let's get into the buildings. So what kind of buildings are there um, for forging and for smelting? And in this case, you start with the furnace, which you gonna grow old of them really fast. Though you can make a couple of furnaces to get you started, and from then you'll upgrade them to bloomeries sooner or later, and that's what you're going to be doing, because the furnaces have very little space inside, so they only allow 150 capacity stones, which is very little. You'll be processing very few ingots at a time, but I mean, it's it's the heart of the forging itself. It's how we all started, and yeah, that's a beautiful picture of a furnace. I haven't seen one in a while, to be fair. So the kiln is well, it's mostly used for kilning, for to make glass and stuff like that, but it's really important to make charcoal. So there's no forging if there's no charcoal. I mean, there could be, but I mean, it would be really tedious and inefficient. So make sure you have your kiln set up. And the quality of the charcoal won't matter. So they basically use to make fuel, and sometimes they are indeed for pottery or glasswork, but mostly to make charcoal. That's the highest reason we have there. We're going to explain how to make charcoal efficiently. The quality of the charcoal doesn't matter. So like even the noobiest person in your guild with zero skills could get the charcoal going and make thousands and thousands of charcoal for the blacksmiths. The charcoal quality will not affect the duration that the charcoal will last in a bloomery. So be sure to have your new mates, especially when they're trying to guild or stuff like that, help you with this, because this is a process that can be done by anybody. So for the forging itself and the smelting, we have specialized buildings, right? The bloomeries. There's a couple of different setups. We're going to show you ours and what we plan to do with it. Blooms are really awesome, because first of all, they have almost 4 times the space that the furnace does have, and well, yeah, that's pretty much it. The space is good. If the quality is good, it should be all right. The bloomeries are really useful in many ways. So usually we keep the charcoal at 40 and then 360 of the ore or the ingots. For the charcoal, you're always safe. For the raw processing from raw iron into ingots, you could be using 20. 20 should be enough, but the 40 you're always like safe. And like sometimes you spend 21, spend 22 just because you're doing something else or checking other bloomeries around, or like processing something. So yeah, this is definitely the ratio we'd recommend with the bloomeries. It's usually the 40 to 360 of whatever material. To try to do that. Um, so forging anvils is where you do your first forging. So this is going to be your first building for forging. So you're going to have a couple of furnaces, some kilns, and one forging anvil. To get this, you have to get an anvil. So the anvil is basically done in the furnaces or the bloomeries. It's also done by that process we talked about the smelting of an item. So anvils um, and crucibles can be drawn from the furnaces or the bloomeries, so if you put 8 ingots inside, so an anvil costs 8 ingots, and basically put the clay anvil form, which is done by our material processing mates, and then you put the 8 ingots inside the furnace, and you get your first anvil. And after you have your first anvil, you build your forging anvil with your builder. Um, so basically, like the forging anvil and the forging process is kind of separated into two parts. It's either the forging or the smelting, right? I'm going to reiterate this a lot, because many people, even people that have blacksmithed for ages, kind of forget this sometimes. Um, but the highest quality of forging always occurs in the blacksmith shop, because it boosts your the processing of what you make. So basically, the blacksmith shop gives you 20% of bonus of the quality, but it's still limited by your skill. So the blacksmith shop, like, we don't even have a forging anvil base anymore. So it's like the furnaces. The furnaces have disappeared. Um, the forging anvil is as well. So the blacksmith shop is where you're going to be crafting all of your forging stuff. You could smelt it there, but it's also really inefficient. It only has 100 stone. So all the smelting occurs in bloomeries, and all the forging occurs in the blacksmith shop. So what is the difference between forging and smelting? So smelting is basically putting iron, heating it up, and then drawing stamping from it. Forging is basically hitting stuff with your hammer in the blacksmith shop or furnace, which I'm going to show, and it does have caps. While forging has caps, smelting doesn't. So whatever is made of only metal, of iron or steel or whatever it is, it can be done by smelting. So yeah, with regards to your skills, we have talked about pretty much everything besides recycling and coating. But basically, you can be uh, making your tools and used weapons into iron again by recycling, but the process is really efficient compared to what it used to be, even if you have 100. Um, you can also smelt bars and ingots of gold and silver nuggets from gold silver nuggets. Those can be useful, and we're going to be talking about coating. So coating is done with rock salt and brimstone. We'll dive into the coating in a second, but just to explain what common ingots and common bars are. So basically, these common ingots that you see, or common lumps, or common bars that you see in your items, they refer to three specific types uh, of materials we have. In this case, it will be in this case, the commoning is referred to iron, steel, or Vostascus. This is the caps I was talking about a few seconds ago. So iron as a cap of 60. So when you're forging stuff with it, it will cap the material at 60, even if it's 100 quality iron, doesn't matter. And many people forget this, especially if you haven't blacksmithing in a while, even if you have hundreds of hours of blacksmithing. But basically, iron will always cap you at 60 when you're forging. If you're blooming, you always bloom with iron, because iron quality 100 can make you 100 quality crucible or anvil, like we spoke before. You don't need to use steel or Vostascus to do the smelting of higher quality. But if it's referring to forging, uh, will have that cap present. The steel ingot will have a cap of 80, so this cap will, anything that you make even with 100 quality steel will be capped at 80 in the forge, in the forging anvil or in the blacksmith shop. And the Vostascus is kept at 100, so this is the highest material you can make quality wise. Vostascus has a particular way to smelt it. You have to go up and down in the temperature bar. You can use a few tricks with charcoal to make the bar go lower in temperature and whatnot in the inside of bloomery. We're not going to be making Vostascus in this video. I'll make a later video for Vostascus. Um, but basically, it's a mixture of all of the ores with including it. So it's basically made to make Vostascus. You usually make irregular alloys. For these irregular alloys, you need 150 of them to make an ingot, but they're made of steel, copper, lumps of silver, and lumps of gold. So it's a mixture of all of the materials. But there is another way you can get them, and that's most of the times we actually do from null camps. So like these irregular alloys drop from some of the nulls, like the null bears and the null chieftains. I'm not sure if it dropped from the witches, but basically we get a lot of regular alloys from there, and we do a lot of processing from that. So we don't even make Vasascus that much in base, but we will make a little video on that. I'm also sorry for all the wiki, but this video is quite complicated since they include so much stuff from forging, and the wiki just for you to have an idea and you can check on your own whenever you're doubts on how to make something. And the only thing missing is the case hardening and toughening. So these are the coating. So half of the regions will have brimstone, and half of the regions will have rock salt. Um, so the regions with brimstone are written here. If you have one of these regions, you're going to have to set up a trade with somebody with rock salt or get a source of rock salt. Back in the day, the coating also used to apply to armor parts. Right now, it doesn't. It doesn't. So does make the armor smithing processing easier. But for forging, it's pretty much the same as it was before. So you basically will grab one iron ingot or one steel ingot or one Vosascus ingot, and you put the rock salt with it. So this is one of the reasons why we store everything in ingots, so we can craft the case harden or the toughen or the steel from the ingot itself. You save a lot of rock salt and a lot of brimstone, and flux to if you do the process like this. You also save durability on your bloomery, durability on your crucible, and you save time. Um, so yeah, that's all about coatings and all about the different types of ingots you're going to be using. So now that we know all the buildings and stuff, let's recap the setup. So basically we have our bloomeries set up like facing each other. This is so like all the processing is done without kind of moving. That's a bit lazy, but it's really useful. So like we have the our iron and stuff that gets into the base. Whatever is not the top highest quality, we drop into here and we make ingots from it. All of the all of the materials should be available in a large warehouse or a couple of warehouses around. So you have a nice setup so you can access all the bloomeries and at the same time as the warehouse. We're going to talk about that in a bit. We have our little kilns. Like this setup is definitely from an old time when our base pretty much ended here and all of this was palisaded at this point. Now that we've expanded, we definitely outgrown it. And this is our blacksmith shop. So yeah, this is the kind of three buildings you need for endgame iron processing. We also have the highsmith's warehouse here. We're going to be looking into it quite a bit. And yeah, so the forging happens here. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. We have the kiln set up. It's useful sometimes to put the quality of the kiln. Some of them are from old times. These were our first ones. They were bad. The clay was not so good, but so wasn't our construction. Um, the bloomeries are pretty much all 100. The new blacksmith shop is going to pop out here, and it should also be 100. So basically, we're going to have the warehouse set up in this side. So like we'll have a warehouse for processing instead of there over here, and we have the blacksmith shop there. So basically, when we want to craft something, we just also need to look at this warehouse and that blacksmith shop. So it's like pretty much completed a circuit, let's say, um, from the raw iron into the base and the processing and stuff. So we don't even need to move from that specific ramp. Um, yeah, let's dive into it. So, how to make charcoal? This does belong to the kilning rather than forging itself, but it's the fuel that we use for everything. So, charcoal is made from hardwood billets. Basically, you want to get 31 hardwood billets in your bag. Then you're gonna put 30 in and turn it on. As soon as one will spend sooner rather than later. But I had charcoal there before because we're making some glass, so there's still some reserve fuel before. Don't press the bellows. Don't need to press the bellows. Like if you wanted to make it faster, you could raise it a bit, but then it will consume more of the wood, so you get more charcoal, less charcoal in the end. Um, like we said before, the killing doesn't matter for this process. You want to be using any quality of wood that you have, the lowest quality of wood, that's okay, but it needs to be hardwood. So from birches or oaks or whatnot. Check our forestry video if you want to know more about wood planting. But basically, what happens is this part will start to fill. This occurs with everything. So um, with the iron, if you have the right temperature for it to go up, it will start going up. So in this case, it's at below 500, and you can see that the bar is already going upwards. Um, don't increase it, otherwise we'll spend more. If the one does pop, we'll replace it right away. So right now we put 30 hardwood billets in there, but you can do it with charcoal as well. So you can do the first ignition or sometimes even more. Um, with the charcoal, so like can put 10 charcoal in there as a reservoir of energy, let's say. So in this case, if I put 10 and I fill the other 29 billets in, that could be okay. And like sometimes it takes from charcoal, so sometimes it's not as selective or doesn't have a filter of how it should be done. But just make sure that all of the stumps and stuff like that from the trees that you uproot, be sure to keep them. Like we usually have our mates keep them, but right now we have been already putting them into use in palisades or doing some other stuff with it. But like all the low quality and all the hardwood you can find, do so. We also keep like hardwood log warehouse nearby with some of the lower quality trees that we had lying around, um, and obviously oaks when we are in a dire need for hardwood. But yeah, as soon as that bar fills, we're able to pull from the kiln. So right now, if I try it, it tells me nothing is there. So like if I try to do it, you have no items here. It's not sufficiently hot. So this is a warning for also for forging. So when you're trying to pull stuff from the bloomeries, so you can turn on the bloomeries just to test it out, and you can get smelt, but then it says you cannot put anything useful. So that's a notice for you to know if your items are not heated or if you're not have the correct stuff inside. um, so right now when you look at the kiln, it's almost ready but not really ready, like 80% in. So we're going to give it a little bit more time, and as you can see, it didn't even spend the extra one. So in this case, we didn't even need to use the fuel just because it was fuel from before. So now we can pull it as soon as that sign appears. You see that sign there on the left hand side? This one, the pull out. You can pull out here and select what you want. The load of charcoal, if you have 60 kilning, makes it faster, or the charcoal. You can also right click it and pull out of the kiln. So if you know that the successful kilns are also ready, you can just do this and you basically get 40 instead of 4. Usually there's a bit of a surplus, so in this case we had this 39 from before, and we pulled 2 loads, and now we pulled 100 charcoal. So now with the 300 space, we can basically put the 30 in. And if you do add the extra one to replace it, if the first one is burned to eat up the kiln for the first time, you always get the 100 charcoal from one kiln. That's really useful. Um, and that's basically how you produce the fuel. So everything needs fuel. The kilns, if you're making less, need fuel. The blacksmith shop needs fuel. The same thing with the bloomeries. Um, to make sure that you have the correct fuel, basically just use charcoal. Like in the beginning, you can use softwood or hardwood itself to heat up the furnaces, the beginning ones, but it's really inefficient. Like it takes way too much space off the furnaces. As soon as you can make charcoal, to make charcoal, it's really useful, and use it to feed everything, the kitchen and the brewing tanks and all the stuff. Just be sure to agree with your mates where the charcoal is, where to drop the wood stumps. They're really useful if you're doing a lot of wood processing, so do save those to make charcoal and stuff, and save the better stuff for the palisades or whatever other purposes you're using your hardwoods for. But that's basically it about charcoal. So now that our charcoaling is out of the way, let's look into the items that we're using. We already went through them, but right now we're going to be using the blacksmith hammer and the crucible and tongues. You have to be sure that they're repaired. So the crucible and tongues I usually put in 2, and the smith I always just double click it to put in 1. The reason for that is so it replaces my mallet. So just later on, be sure not to be hammering buildings in with your blacksmith hammer, um, and make sure both of them are also repaired. So like if I always use the blacksmith hammer in 1, I'm for sure that if I'm hitting a building in, this is my builder at the same time as blacksmith. And the blacksmith hammer can build stuff, but it will just make it quite shitty. So be sure to never do that mistake if you're equipping both. Right now we do have both of them at 100. And the crucible is kind of easy to get as soon as you get some really good quality iron. This one you need good quality. You need to make vostascus to get the 100, so it's a tool. So don't forget. The crucibles are made by smelting because they are made of iron only. The only exception to that rule, smelting rule with the iron caps, is pretty much the armor parts. The armor parts are only made of metal, but they do require forging. All the others that you can imagine um, are made of that are made only metal can be made there. Even toolkits, for example. Some toolkits are made of only metal. Like this one requires handles. It needs to be done the carpentry one, so it requires forging. So you'll be capped. But for example, the glass blowers only requires 2 bars. So this one can be done in the bloomery. Okay. I know I keep repeating that, but that's like the most important lesson if you don't get anything else from this video. The blacksmith hammer in this case is made by forging, so we need the Vostascus common ingots and in 100 quality branch. Basically, your main blacksmiths can definitely use this. We have a couple of 80s and whatnot lying around for the mates. Let's look at what a normal warehouse should look like. Our smiths is going to move there in the future next to the bloomeries, but for now it's still here in the original position. Um, so right now we're going to identify a lot of the bars that we've been talking about and like the kind of storages that we have, the stores. So this is not all of our iron, but it's most of it. So like we have a couple of like blacksmith hammers and less than 100 quality crucible and tongues for just the mates to use. We made this a while back, so like some of the new mates trying it out. These are good stuff for them to use when they started forging. We have a couple of armor parts you'll notice. This is just because we do the armor smithing inside this warehouse, so in the future this will be pretty much an only armorist warehouse. Um, Maybe weaponsmithing as well, we'll see. But that would be the future purpose of this warehouse. Right now it's also as a rocksalt and brimstone stocks, but this will all be moved to the large one warehouse that we have there in the back. So we also have some copper around and some iron that still need to be moved. Actually, we're gonna take that one. So now that we made sure our tools are equipped and we also have the outfit, there we go. It's not the best, but well, there again, we're gonna wait a little bit more time to try to reach the hundreds there. Um, so what do we see here? All the ones that are marked with yellow, those are the ones made by brimstone. So these are the toughened ones. And we usually want to be keeping some amount of steel and some amount of iron that is toughened. So for example, later in this video, we're going to be making logs. And because logs are made by smelting, because they're only made from metal, you can forge them. You can grab steel or iron and actually forge them in the blacksmith shop. You can see here, we're going to get into that a little bit later on the video, but just to give you an example. So logs here, for example, require 2 toughened bars. You could forge them, and if they're made of steel of iron, they'll only get to 60 quality. Whilst if you make them with iron but smelting, you could get to 100. So for example, this is 81, it will give you 90 quality logs or thereabouts, depending on your forging level. Um, all the stuff that is made with gray is the rock salt stuff. So in our area we don't have rock salt, so it's definitely valuable. You need to get your hand on both because later on some weapons will require one or the other. Like for example, logs require toughened metal sheets. Later in the video we're also going to be making some gate modules to make the drawbridges and to make the stone gates. You're going to need gate modules, and to do that we're going to need case-hardened metal sheets. Those are not here at the moment. We actually will get them later on in the video because we're going to use some of the metal sheets that were here before. Um, to make the case-hardened metal sheets. Um, and to do that, you coat the metal sheets itself inside the bar. We're going to demonstrate that later. Basically, we have to mix the brimstone and the rock salt with the metal sheets or with the metal bands when it's needed for whatever construction or building you're doing. That is not done in the ingot shape. That's done after the sheets or bands are made. That's when you actually coat them with the stuff. So for example, for the logs, we don't have we don't grab logs and do them like there is no such thing. We actually craft them straight from the toughened iron ingot. So you want to keep kind of a diversity of it, both in ingot and in bar shape. This would be for example the weaponsmith. So the weaponsmith needs to make a couple of weapons. You basically they might need they want to do a 80 quality weapon. They grab the steel, the coated steel or the coated or the case hardened steel, and they basically make the weapons they need. Or if they want to make 60 quality ones, you can also use these ones. The case hardened iron ingots are we have to make a lot of them, and we keep spending them because this is how you make the pickaxes. So if you notice this pickaxe, the steel case steel, it's called steel pickaxe, but it's not a pickaxe per se. So you can see this pickaxe here. This is the hardened steel pickaxe. It doesn't need to be made of steel. It is made like you see there, case hardened ingots. So in this case, the case hardened common ingots. So can make them of steel, you can make them out of iron. They're really good, and they actually require rock salting. So if you don't live in a region with rock salt, to make sure to get your hands on those. They are much faster than the normal pickaxes that just require the common ingot, and they have pretty much the same uses, just a matter of speed and durability and all that good stuff. Um, You also want to be keeping a different assortment of either lumps, bars, and ingots. So you can find the ratios for your own guilds. Right now we're a bit low on steel. We have to do some processing. We've been processing a lot of steel stuff lately, but you really want to get that steel going. This is like I said before, I demonstrated before. Steel is made with iron and flux. We're gonna have it later on this video to just to demonstrate uh, how you can make it yourself. But to be sure that you have a good amount of flux stored for this because it does spend a lot. 12 flux per steel ingot is a lot. Um, and the coating happens afterwards. So for example, you make the steel, you grab the steel plus the brimstone, and you make this coat of stuff. The steel plus the rock salt, and you make well, you make this one. Sorry, case-hardened steel ingots. So be sure to keep your ratios and do it in a way that is useful for a guild. If you're spending a lot of repair kits, do make sure that the nails are set. We also drop some of the nails in the carpentry warehouse, but the lumps for the blunt arrows and blunt bolts and all that good stuff, be sure to replace them as well. This game does require a lot of coordination with other professions, so be sure that you have that for your carpenters and bow crafters. You also need from them the handles. So the handles you really want to be sure that you have a lot of good handles and they're easy to make. You just basically need one softwood billet and you can make one handle. So basically, if you have a couple hundred, like one tree down or something like that, a couple of trees down, you can definitely get a hell lot of handles. All of the tools will require handles, different amounts of handles to be fair. But we're gonna show you how to craft some tools and do that in a bit. So let's get the smithing process going. In this case, the bloomery. Uh, the bloomeries should have pretty much 40 charcoal already. That's where we usually leave them at. I'm not sure if they're repaired. I don't think I was the last blacksmith, so sometimes they are not repaired. Like if a mate has only done a little bit of damage to it. So right now it's 800. We can definitely work with that. So we just grabbed some random ore that was in their warehouse because I also cleaned it up. It's probably really bad. Yes, it is, but the process is all the same with low quality or high quality. So you wanna manage furnace, and when you open, you can close it by pressing tab. So by pressing tab or pressing the free look button, you can close it up, and that's going to be really useful later on because you can use one of the reasons we do this is because we can use the inventory at the same time as we look into the bloomery. So in this case, while you're pulling it out, so like in this case, I would draw it from there, So when you're working, for example, with a blacksmith shop, you can do that. Looking at or crafting armor, you can look at the warehouse at the same time. This one I can drag in at the same time, so I can actually be looking there. Sorry, at the event at the large warehouse, and then smelt from the bloomery when it's ready. And I drag stuff right from here. So if your bag doesn't have enough space, you can do that to a cart, to a warehouse, whatever it is. And it's a really useful tool, the free look and the tab. Try to play with that a bit because it is. So right now we turn it on. As you can see, like this is not going to be enough to melt the iron. So we're going to increase a little bit. It takes a while for even the first tick to proc, but what I usually do is put it to full. So basically, in this case, we're going to go 2000, which is not needed for most craftings, but it will, if you're doing, for example, 8 bloomeries, uh, I can fill all of this up and turn that one up, and it's already, now it's going to start cooking. But because I put it to 2000, I don't even need to go there and bellows again. So what I would usually do, I'll grab the next 360, and I'll go to the next one and scoop it in. Do make sure, like sometimes the stacks are like this is really bad quality iron. We just to make basically make nails, just for demonstration purposes of this video. We have a couple of new mates that we're demonstrating how to mine, and we might not be taking them to the 100 quality mines because we also don't need 100 quality iron for most of the processings, like to make nails or to make lamps and stuff like that. You can make it from real low quality. With a good forging level, it will jump up to a decent quality by the end of the processing. So what you always want to be doing by the time you actually uh, are processing raw iron is to make ingots, like we explained before. There are a couple of reasons. First of all, it's easy, it takes less durability from the less durability from your crucible, and at the same time, it saves time it saves your time. Instead of like one of these could be making 2 lumps. So basically, if you were taking iron and making 2 lumps, you're going to take um, 640 actions from the 300, sorry, 360 actions from the bloomery to get the 2 lumps, and that affects the durability of the tool. The bloomery you have to be repairing much more, so you're spending a lot more time repairing. It's really inefficient. So making into ingots first and then processing from there, that's definitely the best value for time and for repair kits and for durabilities and all that good stuff. In this case, like this warehouse, like we're supposed to have um, all of our iron here and like for general processing. So like right now, if you don't forget the trick of sorting from left to right, you should have you should always use the different types of iron and quality of iron for your different processing stuff. So this means, for example, if I'm really making high quality iron stuff, I usually put the 100 away from this warehouse just so it doesn't get misprocessed by someone. But you want to use the quality that you need for your caps. So for example, if you're making 60 quality tools, you want to be sure that if you're making iron tools that they always get 60. You don't want 57 or 55. That's less durability. That's inefficient. So be sure that you find your iron caps. The first processing, this raw into ingot should always be done by the highest smith you have, because then the quality gets locked for the ingot, and then when you're breaking into bars and lumps, it gets locked there. When you're making nails or making tools, then your forging will affect it again, but this locks the quality of that ingot itself. So this first process should always have your highest forger do it, and we're gonna wait for this to pop, and I'll be back shortly. So as you can see here, the iron is almost at the maximum level. When it is ready, the high level of temperature, when it is ready, when it's heated up properly, this button will become um, this button will become red, so clickable. Right now you can only use the bellows to increase the temperature. There is no way to lower the temperature. The only way to do it is to, for example, remove stuff from there and put it. So usually we actually do it with one charcoal, and we do that for the Vasasco's trick in a later video we will show you. But yeah, so see now the buttons pop. The recycle doesn't do much here. The recycle is when we have tools inside, and this is the smelt button that you're going to be using. Or then again, you can press your free look button and smelt so you can see what the stuff is inside. And you basically just want to be crafting iron ingots and then mass produce. If you press produce only those once, if you mass produce, it does until the bloomery is empty. As you see there, it's draining from there. The temperature in this case won't matter much, like because we put it to 2000, we're 100% sure that it will not go below the level that needs to cook. If you only put it to the exact temperature that it needs, then it would not be. Then you need to come here and press the bellows again. But because we usually do 8 bloomeries in a row, we basically can, by the time the first bloomery is ready, you can keep going and drain from all the bloomeries at the same time. Um, and by the end of the process, you'll have like all of the ingots from them, and you can just put them into the warehouse that we have nearby without even moving, and then we extinguish. So you saw we like I took one more moment there to explain and to this do this and that, and usually you can spend 20 less than 20 charcoal. But the problem is when you have a lot of them running, you might have a little bit of surplus, or you have distractions from your guildies or stuff like that. So the 40 does keep you safe. So you can do it to 20. If you're just having one bloomery, you can be really efficient with it. But if you're doing multiple bloomeries at once, I do recommend the 40, just because if it does the charcoal runs out, everything gets to reset to zero, and you have to restart again the process and eat it up and whatnot, and you're losing more time. It having the bloomery going up or eat it up or any temperature, it doesn't affect the durability of the bloomery. The draining of the items from the inside, making something with it, does though. So do pay attention to that. And yeah, this is how you make a bunch of iron ingots. You saw the quality at the beginning was really low, but right now it got to 39, and that's already useful to make some nails. And then we're going to bring them into lumps and do all that process. But from ingots now, we're going to do the lumps and maybe a ratio of bars. And in this case, don't forget to inspect your bloomeries when you're working with them. But we're going to also be coating some steel. You can see that we have the brimstone and the steel inside the, the bloomery. We're going to be coating some steel to make to leave for some weapons later on. We do spend a lot of it for products, for example. So yeah, as you can see here, in this case you do not change the rock salt amounts. If you actually multiply the steel case-hardened steel bar for ingot, it's actually the same, but we're actually just saving the durability. So in this case, you use 10 rock salt for one ingot and 2 rock salt for a bar, which is pretty much the same level because one bar does give 5 ingots, right? You can see here it gives the 5 ingots, but it does save actions. So if you're making a lot of case-hardened steel bars, you just make 1 2 ingots, and the next bloomery that you're doing, you set it up to then break into bars. It will be much faster and it will save durability, so therefore repair kits. Whilst if you're making the steel itself, you actually do want to be making ingots because, for example, for 1 ingot of steel, so you need to spend 2 iron ingots, and for 1 ingot of steel, you spend 12 flux. Whilst for and if you're making a steel bar with every 2 bars of iron, you need be needing 6 flux per each. So in this case, it would be 30 flux to make 1 ingot. So instead of like the 12 flux, you'd be spending 30 flux. So that's definitely a plus. To be sure to save as much time for your herbalist as well, so they have to spend less time herbaling. And yeah, let's go back to our bloomeries. So as you can see here, the iron is almost at fully melted. The steel is still like 20% of the way through. The toughened steel that we're gonna make. Don't forget you can case harden or toughen any of the common ingots. In this case, I'm just going to be dropping a couple of things in the carts nearby of the for the stuff that I'm using. At this point, I still didn't have uh, enough space to actually carry all my gear plus the 360, so I'm just going to put some stuff away. Yeah, you pretty much if you can carry the 360 stone, that helps you a lot with sorting this because it's just easy to grab 260 of one of a bit of iron. Do be sure that you take it from the left side, so don't forget that sorting mechanism we do use. So the left-hand side iron is going to be the lowest quality. We're just going to be processing a lot of the bunch of the low stuff to make some nails. We ended up making like a few thousand nails, 10,000 nails or something like that the next day. So I just wanted to get some of that iron out of the way and processed. Um, so yeah, you can do the shift click drag to your bag and then select the amount. Um, this is a really useful trick. We have explained it before in a couple of other videos, but in case you miss it. So yeah, let's put that to full and shift click drag into the bloomery and you can set up the value then later. You don't need to be splitting in your bag, just be as efficient as you can. So we keep filling the rest of the bloomeries while our iron is cooking, just to save us some time in the future. Um, Bloomeries always take a bit of time, but be sure not to do this at the same time as you're gonna do ingots into lumps or ingots into bars. That's a really good way to streamline that process, but it does take a little bit longer than just eating a raw iron into iron ingots. Um, but yeah, this is a procedure you're gonna get used to with time and try to maximize as much as you can, both into your bag and into Bloomery itself. If you can carry the 360, even better, because then you don't need to be this as much split stacking as I'm doing. Um, yeah, and we're gonna eat it up all of the Bloomeries at to the maximum, so then we don't need to come balance it again. It does spend a little bit more charcoal, but yeah, as soon as we fill one, We pull it to max temperature, then we grab the stuff for the second, wait a few seconds, and then heat it up as well. If you're too fast at split stacking and stuff, you can just go straight uh, for the for the bloomeries and heat them up, but it depends on how you want to do it. The 8 is pretty much for the raw processing. So if we do the 8 and we fill the 8 and we have enough time to go for the whole rotation of then drawing ingots from. So after this process is done, we realize that the first bloomery is ready for us. We're a little bit behind on time, but it's okay. We also realize that we're going to be doing lumps for a while, so don't forget, look into the warehouse, then press the free look and come back to your bloomery. This way, you can actually do the tasks at once. Because we have everything started in level-wise, we basically can stack the next stack next to it. It's going to be either same level or level above. So if it's same level, I'll stack with the stuff on the left. Don't forget, always use the sort by item type and sort by quality. Uh, well, yeah, this allows you to multitask while you're still grabbing them lumps. It's going to take a while to do so. I'm going to pretty much speed forward our next little part, and um, we'll get to the toughening in a bit. So from each ingot right now that we have heated up in the bloomery, we're getting 40 charcoal by one action. So basically made one ingot and then one um, draw of a lump. And as you can see, that's two actions. That saves a lot the durability of both bloomery and a crucible, so you don't need to be repairing them as much, meaning that you also keep higher quality, um, get higher quality of stuff. Um, it, we're going to be also drawing the ones from the right hand side bloomery, the second one where we have the toughened steel stuff, and we're going to be right back. So we're actually gonna be dropping the lumps into the warehouse, and we be gonna be dragging the lumps that are the lower quality. We're gonna make a bunch of nails. Uh, just want to check if we have any lower quality stuff. Uh, with one quality iron, for example, we can make 85 quality repair kits, for example. But we use higher quality nails, for example, to make shields or to make constructions where the quality doesn't matter. Um, in this case, I just grab a bunch of the lower quality ones to make sure we're using them, and I'll be dropping them in a bloomer as soon as we have some space. We're gonna be taking the toughened iron ingots now from the bloomery we also set up. So this one is pretty much the coating and the coating and the steel making. It's pretty much done in the same way. So you just put either the iron or the steel or the Vostascus inside with the coated with the brimstone or rocksalt to coat, or you put the iron uh, to make with flux to make the steel. And it's pretty much the same process. Don't forget, um, stuff that is for coating or for flux, we usually don't fill the bloomery up with it. So what we do is like we put the amount of steel or iron that we want there, and then we put a little bit to just start the process, but you just need like to have a space for 10 or something like that, and then you can keep putting the brimstone or the flux into the bloomery as we just did now, and then we really heat it up. So all the materials that are not metal, they heat up instantaneously. So you don't need to be figuring out the ratios of what you exactly need with regards to the coating and stuff. You just make sure that the metal is hot, and then when you finish taking the batch of metal that we were using, you to coat with something or to make the steel. You basically just have the rock salt in your inventory or in a warehouse nearby, and you keep dragging the rock salt and hitting the bellows once. By that, it means that the the brimstone, the rock salt, the flux will instantaneously get heated. So then the stuff is already ready to make if the metal is hot enough, right? That's a really good trick. Right now we're going to be adding the rock salt, so we already did some toughened steel. Now we're going to make some, as you can see, it was not heated. But if I hit the bells now, the rock salt is instantaneously heated, and then basically you can just draw the case-hardened ones from there. Um, so yeah, the metal just has to be hot enough. Uh, I had to do a little detour there between the brimstone and rock salt, that's why we spent a little bit more charcoal, but I had to help it guilty. And yeah, this is a really good way to coat stuff. The same would happen if you had the iron in there. Just fill 340 with iron, maybe a little bit less, and put 24 flux or 36 flux, multiple of 12, then you can get going. Or in this case, the 10 rock salt or 10 brimstone, or a multiple of 10, and then you can just keep replacing it. You can also look into the bloomery while you're doing it, using the free look trick. So you can drop your own back to the bloomery as you're drawing from it, but then you need to press the eat up bellows, and that action will cancel it. But you can fill it up a bit, maybe like that. Right now we're gonna be drawing the rest of the iron from the bloomeries, and we'll get right back. So yeah, basically, if you're doing the 8 bloomeries full of iron, we just we can streamline the process, doing them one by one. By the time the first one is ready, all the other subsequent ones are going to be ready. By the time we're done with the first, we just smelt away, and you can go back to your stacking. So when one of the bloomeries is done, you basically press the free look to the next one, and you just right click and press smelt. So you're always looking at the warehouse and sorting stuff, and be useful in that way. So, as soon as our smelting is done, we're going to be putting for the charcoal in all the bloomeries. We already did that just besides the last one. Is the shift click drag to just make it easier. We're going to be grabbing a lumps of iron right now. So this smelting part, we could basically, the smelting of lumps into nails, we could basically do at Forged Anvil. That might be a little bit uh, faster, or like people think they need to be done at 14 level, but we're going to be doing it in the bloomeries, and the reason is because it's not capped, right? So if we grab these lumps of iron and we go to the 14 anvil, all of them will be stuck at 60 quality. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be doing it in the bloomeries to then eat up these lumps, and then as soon as they are eaten, we can draw nails from it. It will still use your blacksmith's hammer rather than your crucible for this last step. So until now, we've been basically using the, the, the crucible for all this semi-processing. So don't forget, we made the ingots from the raw iron, then we made the lumps. So we got 40 from each, and now we're making the lumps reheated again so that we can draw nails from it. This nail drawing process, it is a little bit in a sense slower because you're not getting nails as fast, but if you're mass processing nails, this is definitely the best way, and you're getting quality that you really need. So if you wanted to make 40 nails, it would be easier to just burn one of the ingots down to lumps and go to the 14 anvil and smack it, but they will always be capped, right? The iron cap on 14. Never do this with steel or Vastascus because you're obviously wasting the material. So this smelting we only do with iron. The steel and Vastascus is for the iron caps we used for making tools, making weapons, and making armor parts and stuff like that. The armor parts are the only exception that cannot be done in this way, that are made only of metal. Um, but yeah, then we're gonna get some plumes going. Don't forget, this is a little bit of an offset from these ones because it's gonna take some time to do the nails from the bloomery. So we're gonna be heating up the second bloomery only after a little bit because the first one takes a while. So you're gonna sort out all of this by yourself, in a sense of like how much time you need to wait for each set of bloomeries. So if you're doing raw iron, you do the 8. If you're doing a bit of semi-processing, like making some coating and stuff, you can do one bloomery, then wait a minute or two, and then start the next one. With the lumps, it will take you maybe 4 or 5 minutes, but you'll figure out your own timing and whatnot. Uh, it also depends how much of an eye you can keep on it, or if you're only doing blacksmithing and no distractions. I do get distracted a lot by stuff, especially the help channel. Do help out your mates when you can. We're gonna be right back. We're gonna fill up the rest of the bloomery, so whenever you have a processing procedure that you're going through, and your bloomery is not full, make sure to use the charcoal efficiently. Drop some iron in it, Right now we're going to be filling the rest of the bloomeries to then get some more stuff going, um, and see you in a bit. So as soon as the metal in the first bloomery is ready, so this is the time we kind of need it. So we fill all of the other bloomeries with iron. We have not turned them on, and it's kind of the time you need to turn on the second bloomery and put it to full temperature. We're going to be smelting nails from the first one. So you can see there, we could basically get bars from lumps or ingots from lumps. If you have messed up or you don't have too much iron in your base, you can try to do uh, whatever you need from them again. The quality of the lumps and bars and ingots is pretty much locked until you can craft something. But we're gonna be draining nails straight from the bloomer itself, and this will allow us to break that cap. And we're getting a good quality of um, of nails now from really low quality iron. So we wanted to look at the first bloomery, see how much there was inside. We still had 11 charcoal and a couple of lumps, so we're gonna be draining all of those. Um, yeah, but you see they're all heated up and they're coming straight out as nails. Do not forget to use this process and do it wisely. As soon as the lumps are turning to nails, what we usually do is drop a couple of them a couple of thousand of them in the warehouse, smithing's warehouse, and we also drop a couple of them in the carpenter's warehouse so they can make them shields and um, repair kits and all that good stuff. Uh, One of the things that happens when you don't have enough backspace, like myself, if you're a big backsmith, you are in luck because you can grab everything from them to bloomeries. But one of the things you always want to check, in the beginning it might occur more often than not, especially if you're just starting out, but this is gonna drop a little bag of stuff while you're smelting for the last bits, so always look for the bag. That you know might be happening. I knew I didn't have the space with this character, so basically I just had to do it. The second bloomery is ready, and we're going to skip that one just because it's the same process as the first one, but it's straightforward. Basically, we added a bit of charcoal because we took a little bit too much time and with the sorting and stuff, so we're just going to go straight into making nails now. And yeah, now we're going to be looking at the process of making locks and how to make the case-hardened metal sheets. But before we do, I just wanted to demonstrate really quickly how to make that steel. So in this case, we already added the flux and the iron bars into it. You kind of want to be figuring out your caps, so like you want to know which kind of materials you can use to reach the 60 quality of iron, or when you're making steel, like what quality of steel do you need uh, to make whatever 80 quality stuff you need. So basically you're gonna have like a personal cap to break those 60 80 qualities and whatnot, and you're gonna have to figure out your own. It depends on the quality of your tools, it depends on the quality of your bloomeries and shops, and at the same time you sometimes want to be leaving the higher quality stuff to help break the caps of the mates with lower quality forging. So because they have lower forging, you might leave them the 75s 80s while you can use the 65 to get uh, the desired quality, you know. um, So we're gonna be pulling the steel now. We actually had to take a little detour until the steel was ready, but basically, yeah, grab the flux. The same trick is with the coating, and we had to add a little bit of charcoal because it was getting direly low. Um, as soon as we do that, the stuff is going to be ready to pull. So right click, fill lock movement. I make sure that everything is repaired. If you're doing a lot of nails and stuff, that is probably because so many actions. That's probably the best time to check the bloomery or your tools. Um, if the tools are at okayish quality, you'll realize your tool durability will affect the quality of what you're smithing. So you want to be making sure that depending on what you're crafting, that you're going to be at 60, 70, 80% durability, at least when you start doing some of the higher quality processing. In this case, as soon as that runs out, we can put more flex in and keep getting steel ingots from inside a bloomery. So it's pretty much the coating in the sense of like just the way that you do it there, but I just wanted to demonstrate it. Um, if you're not sure what skill, what cap you will have, but you can actually make the math with the percentages and whatnot of the steel or the coating and all that good stuff. But besides that, it's pretty much straightforward. So let's get to making logs. So basically, we need the iron ingots coated. So you grab a couple of them, put them into the bloomery, and we heat it up. And now that we have the ingots, we're going to drain the toughened toughened iron bars from the bloomery, and then we're going to put them back uh, into the bloomer itself to heat it up and drain the logs from it. So again, this is the same thing as the nails. So if I grab this toughened iron bars and use the forging anvil, they will be quality 60. But now we can break it and just by smelting them and heating it up. The heating up process does take a little bit, but it definitely compensates the that time by how fast it is and by the less durability you have and by not obviously having a cap. At the same time, don't forget, fill up the rest of the room with whatever useful stuff you can do. Never just use the charcoal to heat up 2 ingots or something like that. Fill it with iron if you have lying it around. Well, whatever your guild needs, like do be sure to use that. Again, if you're using steel, in this case, you would be almost guaranteed if it was 60 quality steel, you would be guaranteeing that you would have the 80 quality logs, but this process just allows it to make it better. So we're putting them straight back into the bloomery as soon as we finish training it. Um, you're gonna be wanting to put a multiplier of 2 because for each lock you need 2 toughened common ingots bars. We're gonna start the west way. Most of the time, so like all the coated iron that you see is usually used for this processing. So to make logs, to make a couple of 60 quality weapons for the new mates and stuff like that. The steel usually mostly used for the tools and the weapons. Um, do be sure to use the correct ratios that you want, because as soon as something is coated, you cannot then make steel out of it. So if you have common ingot that is already coated like iron, you cannot be grabbing it and making steel out of it. If it's to make Vostascos, if it's already coated, you cannot use that steel to then make Vostascos. So you have to be sure to be using the correct ratios so you're not wasting material if you're low on rocksalt or brimstone, especially if you're not from those regions or you don't have too money to buy it or trade. This is really important, so you're not wasting material that is just going to sit there for ages of 100 brimstoned iron ingots, and then you need 80 quality tools, and then you don't have it or weapons or anything like that. Yep, don't forget, fill up the rest of the bloomeries. Don't waste the charcoal. I mean, you will waste a lot of charcoal as a blacksmith, but try to waste as little as you can. If filling a bloomery will save that, definitely do it. Good practice. And as soon as they are heated up, yep, don't forget to inspect. I do that quite often with big batches. Like this video has been recording over a couple of days, so I'm always checking that. You'll see. Um, but basically, don't forget to repair your bloomeries and your tools. That's a really important step because it will affect the quality of the stuff you're producing. So we're going to be smelting the dim logs now, and then grabbing a couple of ingots. So let's get to the case-hardened metal sheets. So basically, we're going to be putting the sheets inside. The same thing happens with the bands when you need to case-harden or toughen them. You don't make them from the ingots or the bars that are case-hardened. You make them from the sheets or the bands themselves. Um, in this case, you can check the wiki when you're unsure about the amounts that you need for each either sheet or band and the percentages that you might be looking into. So we already have the sheets in there. We're going to be making some gate modules with those. Uh, you have to sort out the quality of the materials you kind of need because we have a lot of low quality rock salt. We kind of just want to eyeball the quality of the stuff we have and make sure that we're not using the lowest, but also at the same time not the highest, because you might want to be saving that for some for Sasko's weapons or some steel weapons, or for low quality foragers, I mean low level foragers. Um, in this case, we're going to be taking some middle of the road kind of quality, because this is going to be for our drawbridge in one of the sides of our base. So we want to make sure that that's okayish quality. So as soon as we go to what we need, we're going to be putting that into the bloomery. In this case, you could definitely um, not put the rock salt all in. You could be doing another part of procedure there, but I just wanted to show you how to do it. The reason why I did the logs in this one is because the logs do come from uh, the first of all, they're things that you make a lot, but the logs do come from the bars themselves. In this case, we proved that it could be done by smelting and keeping to good quality. In this case, we're doing the metal sheets, which also done by smelting, but there is no option to make the metal sheets from forging and the shop. Um, in this case, the metal sheets have a peculiar thingy. The same thing when you toughen them, like you actually get you cannot see the exact number on the sheets. You can try to spread them out a little bit with a dumbbell at the bottom of your inventory, but it's really hard to see the number. But the number is there, so we're getting multiple of them. Sometimes it's really hard to see it, but you can see it on the bottom left corner of each sheet how many you actually got. That's a little uh, trickiness to this part of the game. Um, Hopefully they'll fix that in the future. But yeah, this is our getaway sheets. We put some more rock salt in, we heat it up, and yeah, we keep getting them. So the metal sheets are definitely there. You just have to squint your eyes a little bit, and you can see it there at the bottom left corner. Just be sure you have the correct number. Sometimes you can stack it, but this is going to be two individual gate modules. They're going to be for the same drawbridge, so you could stack them just to get the correct number of them. But it's always been tricky for many years, so we have to live with that. So, the last chapter of this video will be tool making. So at third you can make most of the tools, but there is a specific tool that you really want to be making as soon as you reach 60, which is the hardened steel pickaxe. This one does require the case-hardened ingots. We usually make it 80 quality. We do repair all of the 80 quality tools at the moment, but you can decide when it's easier for you and when it's cheaper for you to actually repair tools or to make new ones. So you have to account for the cost of the material versus the bars or the handles versus the softwood billets and the nails for the repair kits. But this hardened pickaxe is much faster than normal one. It does require coating, so if you're even in a rock salt region, there is no reason to make it. But even if you don't, there is no reason to make it either, not make it either, because this really improves your mining and it helps your miners a lot, both with regards to speed and durability. It is indeed called hardened steel. You don't have to make it out of steel. You can make it 60 quality when you're starting off, or if you don't have flux. But yeah, they're definitely worth making, even though they do require the rock salt. It's definitely worth the investment. So yeah, all of the tools that are not this one can indeed be made. So you have to manage furnace, turn it on, turn it off. You don't need to put the iron inside. You keep the iron in your bag. We're just going to do a quick check of the tools that we currently have on our uh, local lowish quality storage of tools. I almost destroyed the house. Oopsie daisies. There we go. Make sure I don't mess up. Um, yeah, and basically like all the tools need to be restocked, so you can keep sickles, knives, saws, these pickaxes. The other pickaxes nobody uses, some hatchets and spoons. We go through a lot of spoons. Actually we're having a conversation with one of our main terraformers with regards to using 60 quality spoons and dropping on the ground, uh, or bringing them to recycle, but he's sometimes a little bit lazy to do that. But the 80 quality tools are usually worth repairing, but it's annoying to carry 30 repair kits if you're doing a lot of shoveling or stuff like that. But for most of the 80 quality tools, it's definitely worth the saws, the pickaxes, and stuff like that. So for most tool making, you just need bars and handles. So handles you make from softwood. A good carpenter can make you 100 quality handles for all the tools. It's not really complicated. One softwood billet will give you one handle, and the bars already shown how you can get them. So you process them already from the raw iron into ingots, and yeah, then you just need to manage furnace, turn it on, and craft away. So yeah, these 60 tools is pretty much for this terraformer that does go through a lot of them per day, and basically yeah, do his shenanigans. You can see that there are other types of tools like the saws require they might require different amounts of copper bars compared to handles. So the saw requires 3 copper bars instead of the 4, but it requires 2 handles. So like it's a mixture of that. Some of the tools are the toolkits. Most of them are not really useful, but we do make a lot of jewelry ones. And we do also repair them, but the toolkits do have a limited kind of uh, potential or utility in a sense, because most of them can be done by shop, so there is no reason to use a carpenter's toolkit if you already have a knife, saw, and shop, and stuff like that. The tailoring one is really useful because obviously you're gonna need that one to do a lot of the stuff. But yeah, I mean, those you will find as you go along the game. Skinning knives and knives are pretty much the same. I mean, skinning knife is a little bit faster in the action of skinning, but the quality of the skin doesn't matter for when you're skinning. So if you just have a knife, that will do. Um, One of them does require an ingot, the bar, and the other requires a couple of lumps, so you might be doing that. These are the logs we were talking about before, so you could do the logs here in forging, but um, we already explained why we don't. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Tool making is the last part of this tutorial. With regards to forging, we have done pretty much a little bit of an overview of all types of forging, and especially the smelting part, which is the most complicated one. We're going to be back with some weaponsmithing and armor smithing videos later on in this skill tree. Not sure about doing a killing one yet or not, but time will tell. Don't forget to follow us and subscribe. If you want to join the underachievers, do feel free to check the link of our Discord in our channel. And we're going to be making more videos soon. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you want any specific content, to leave it in the comments below. See you next time.